I just say I have to agree with a lot of the sentiment that's been even in our Discord, which is, after seeing the Bard showcase, a lot of other archetype mains or people looking to main other archetypes are looking at it going, so, we gonna get some of that love or not?
Yeah, I've heard that across our community and a few others. What about you, Bladis? That brings me to the next topic that I'm trying to get us over into, which is Bard combat. How did you feel Bard looked during the combat scenes while we're watching Becky essentially play the Bard class?
Ooh, again, from my perspective, I've never played a support class before, but the combat didn't feel that interactive, because again, you're more it's like asking how the combat feels as a healer. Right, like your function isn't to do combat. Your function is to heal the party and get everyone topped off. So I don't think combat is supposed to feel very like super engaging like the way a DPS class is supposed to be. But I think what I really saw that it excels in is of course the buffing, the utility, I think the utility skills on the Bard are freaking amazing. Like, and again, like when you have a Bard in your party, I forgot who was playing cleric, but he's like, oh my god, a Bard player feels so good when you're playing a cleric, and that's the way it's supposed to feel, right? You're supposed to feel like this person, is propping you up. It's propping the group up in a completely different way. That like, the tank props up the group in a way that, hey, I take the damage, you guys don't.
Right.
Hey, as a healer, I do the heals, you guys don't. As a damage dealer, I do the damage, you guys don't. It's like every primary function is met that way. And I know my boy Nemesis, I don't know if he's in chat right now, but he called because we always talk about the Holy Trinity, right?
Right.
And now we're kind of talking about the Holy Diamond, because now we're adding the fourth portion of support, right? And I think the Bard does a really, really good job of showcasing just how powerful, like buffing, debuffing, adding mana, adding heals, but also like my feedback mostly with the combat from the Bard is the tome. I really love the tome. I think the spell book. I would love it to be a little bit more slower, but actually AoE a little bit better, right? I think that would be really, really cool. So that way, if they're talking about a two-handed sword, right, like it should actually be a little bit more broader sweeping. So I think 3 projectiles should be minimum, in my opinion, not just one additional one. I think it seems kind of lame, but I love the way it's being done. But yeah, the combat to me, it wasn't that riveting, because again, the Bard that's not their bread and butter is combat. It's the utility, it's the support.
Right, they're a support role. They're not a DPS or anything else. Yeah.
Right.
And I think I really like it. I mean, personally for me, I loved watching them weave back and forth between the different songs. It felt way more than just push a button and then push another
absolutely.
button. There was like thought that kind of goes into it, like, okay, what do they need? What can I supply? When is this running out? What should I do next? Should I keep it up? Should I do a different one? Like, there's a bunch of things there. Plus, I like the debuffing of the enemies nearby. I don't know. It was like way more interesting to me than I expected the Bard to play.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to see, like, again, any class can use any weapon. Does that tome then mean that it could be used by a cleric or a summoner, and how would that look when a cleric or a summoner is using that tome? These are like questions that I'm curious to find out.
Absolutely.
I just want to see the book made a little smaller myself.
Yeah.
You don't like the big book?
Not that big.
A lot of people
Not that
didn't.
big.
They wanted it a little bit smaller, like 20-30% smaller.
Yeah, give me a good 20% smaller.
Hey, if a shield can cover a whole Dunir dwarf, I want a bigger book. Give me a book to cover my whole character.
Yeah.
Encyclopedia Magica. All volumes.
That's right.
I love it. Theo says, reminds me a bit of Lucio from Overwatch. AoE continuous certain type of buffs. Continuous certain type. Yeah, exactly. Should be Divine Diamond Tetrahedron.
Yeah, basically.
Wizard says that it looked fine. Honestly, I don't know. I like it. From my experience of doing the Node Wars, combat felt very much like reactive versus like rotational. And that's something that I actually end up mentioning in the video that I put out earlier today, where I was talking about my experience on Node Wars. And it's just like one of those things that I almost didn't realize that I was doing reactive combat. I was just looking at what was happening around me and then reacting and adjusting as needed.
Right.
And that's kind of how the Bard looked to me. What do you think, Vertec?
Bard looked, I mean, it looked very much flexible for any situation. Could be, depending on how much of a mastery they have on the different classes, what the different classes need, what kind of situation you're running into. They could be very proactive, getting stuff prepped up ahead of time, but like there's some good reactive elements in there. Like it, I just say I have to agree with a lot of the sentiment that's been even in our Discord, which is after seeing the Bard showcase, a lot of other archetypes, other archetype mains, or people looking to main other archetypes, are looking at it going, so we gonna get some of that love or not?
Yeah, I've heard that across our community and a few others. What about you, Bladus? Have people in your community been kind of like, all right, so Bard looked cool, can we move that up?
the thing is that the way the Bard plays, as far as like, the song, there's like 4 major categories that you're kind of like in your head thinking about as a Bard. The cleric should kind of feel, I wouldn't say as similar, right? Like a 1-to-1, but again, the cleric is also a sort of a support class as well, but in a different way, right? Towards the healing factors. And I felt like the Bard better showcased gameplay and moment-to-moment ability combat in a more fun and engaging way than the Bard was. Than the cleric was. Yeah. The cleric was so straightforward and just boring. Like I'm
gonna be honest. On that specific point that you just made, there's a few people that said that they were looking to cleric. They saw the cleric showcase and they were kind of like, I don't know. And then they saw the Bard showcase and they're like, dude, Bard. That's
right. And the thing is that I feel like it's having the identities of like certain abilities, right? So it's like the reason why I think for me, and I think a lot of other people that were very captivated by the Bard showcase, is because of the different categories of spells, right? So you have all the songs, you have all the dances, you have like the sagas, like you have all these different things that you're in your mind, you're trying to juggle, right? And then again, the masteries on top of that too, right? So the talent tree had different masteries that almost completely changed the way you think of your combat and the way you do your abilities. That is all good. Like that, I love all that customization. But again, if you go look at some of the other classes, they feel very one-dimensional, while the Bard felt very three-dimensional. And I think that's the main thing, that we kind of start getting these very flat classes and making them a little bit more well-rounded, a little bit more just more fun. Right. And again, it's not talking about the VFX and all of the animations they put into those spells or whatever for the cleric, but I think it's mostly the moment-to-moment gameplay. It's the decision-making processes of the abilities and how those abilities influence and how you can change those abilities even at a base level. Like, I know everyone always wants to talk about the augment system, but let's be honest, the augment systems can provide 1 of 4 options. That's it. There should be more customization beyond that.
Rucka says, before Bard, I was already like, dude, Bard. Now I'm like, dude, Bard.
Dude, Bard.
and that's fair. I mean, when you can tell when they put a lot of love into something. I mean, just look at the fighter showcase compared to the tank showcase. The archer and mage showcases in their own respects have some parts where it's like, oh my gosh, look at the effort that they put into that. And you can really, really tell. And I'm not saying that they didn't put in effort into the cleric. I'm just saying that like the cleric has its like showcase, but it's just, while it's thought out, it doesn't feel as thought out as some of the newer classes do.
I was going to say, Thresher, I completely 1000% agree with you. Again, as a WoW player, I don't want to homogenize classes in Ashes of Creation. You look at classic WoW, every class, and I've talked about this on my stream, I've talked about this on my 1v1s with my guests. I miss when classes had very good strengths and very obvious weaknesses. Now in MMOs, all class designers from companies all want to do is make it to where no class has any weakness. Oh, you have a warrior? Well, guess what? Your warrior can heal. Oh, and your warrior has like amazing speed and utility and defensives and offensives, and it has everything. Like every class just has everything. I think that's very poor design. And again, all I'm advocating for is the customizing of the kits that are present in Ashes. And I don't want the bard to be a DPS, to be a tank, to be a healer. Like I want the bard to be the bard, but I want it to be able to be customizable in the way that you as a bard player can feel like, well, I'm going to play this spell with these 3 customizations. And then you're going to meet someone else and be like, I don't even have that ability at all. And I have this 2 spells with only 2 customizations because I'm also playing this other weapon that complements my basic attacks to my combos. Like that's the thing. Like I want it to get that nerdy. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing. Like I don't want to. I think homogenization is utterly garbage. I think it's poor. I think it's just poor overall design. And again, WoW faces a lot of problems PvP wise. And again, we're also looking at a game with Ashes. And again, having clear weaknesses in classes, because again, Steven mentions rock, paper, scissors. I don't remember paper ever beating scissors. Do you? Right. So there's classes that are going to have some very clear weaknesses, especially at a 1v1 level. But this is why they're trying to balance at a group level with the whole 8 primary archetypes.
I would like to see the augments kind of raise you from a paper to a more like rocky paper.
Cardboard,
or more scissory
like
paper.
Carpenter paper or something like that.
Carpenter paper.
From regular paper to sandpaper. So it resists and harms the scissors a little bit. It's still going to lose, but
pocket sand.
Yeah, pocket sand.
But
no, I agree. I definitely agree.
Yeah, phone book. Oh my gosh.